Hi, I'm Melissa.
And I'm Amiel.
We love video games and movies, and we love talking about them.
So we are hosting a new podcast where every week we choose one video game and one movie to talk about.
We will go through each click and flick from beginning to end and talk about what we like and don't like. And then we will give you a rating based completely on our own opinions and nothing else. Ka-chow.
This week's click was you. Do you want to start?
Sure, I would love to.
You want to talk about it?
Yeah.
I have to say I did watch the YouTube videos of the plots for the two games.
Okay.
Because I wasn't sure if you were just going to do the first one or the sequel also.
The only reason I wanted to do both is because when the second one came out, it changed so much.
Okay.
Because the first one was a great story. So
yes. Okay. So I know the storyline, but I'm going to let you talk about it.
So this week's click is involving both Last of Us, the first one, and Last of Us Part 2. Again, just to reiterate, I'm just going to briefly go over the first one because the second one has the juicy bits. And so as the first one starts, you're introduced to Joel's daughter, Sarah. And I forget her age, actually, forgive me.
She's like a teenager, right?
Yeah, like preteen.
Like
that,
13 or 14.
And the world is normal at the moment, but she is unknowingly by herself at home after she kind of wakes up from her nap or sleep, I should say, and comes to find Joel breaking through the sliding glass door, and chaos just erupts in the world. Basically, the zombie apocalypse is starting, and Joel just got back from hanging out with his brother Tommy.
So I have a question. So I did look up the plot lines, but they call these the infected in the game, right?
Correct.
Do they look like zombies? Like, do they just look like normal zombies, or because some shots I saw, they looked like
creepy,
weirder, like not like how zombies usually look. They looked like all blown up, like almost like swollen,
right?
Like puffy,
scary. Yeah. In the beginning, when I almost said pandemic. Whoa.
In the beginning of the pandemic.
In the beginning of
Christ.
When it first starts, everybody looks normal. They're sick, but they're ravaged. It's like they have rabies type thing. So everyone looks normal. And then there's a 10-year gap. There's a huge 10-year gap that's not talked about, not even portrayed in the first story or the second one.
It's it skips, right? So
yep.
You're saying in that 10 years, the infection went from like looking like zombies to that like weird mutation thing, because the 10 years later, that's when like the main plot is starting, right?
Right. And they mutate, and I think it said 60% of the world were affected by the virus. So the other 40% either died or survived, one of the two. And crazy. As time goes on, back to the Sarah Joel plot, he's basically rescuing Sarah, kind of prepping for the worst case scenario. So they're leaving their house to go find his brother Tommy. All the while they're fighting, the crazed situation of like patients like leaving the hospital and damaging things and creating mass destruction. Yeah, and super surreal because it's all at night, so it's weird. And as time goes on, they ended up meeting up with Sarah ends up hurting her leg, but they end up meeting up with one of the military officers who kind of had control of like the outpost of a base that people were able to flock to that weren't infected. And it's just him and his little dome flashlight shining on them. And Sarah's leg is hurt, so he's holding her in his arms. And he's like pleading with them, like, please, like, don't like kill us. We're safe. We're not
like infected. We're safe. We're good guys, basically, right?
Yeah.
Oh no.
And he radios his base, and basically they said, nope, go ahead and kill him on spot, and he does. He
Yikes.
lets fire and kills Sarah. And that, like, for that opening of a game, for that to happen, that was immediately, I was drawn in. Like, that storyline is just insane from the get-go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll skip over most parts.
Really, though, I do have to say, because he's like shooting at them, and Joel, he like runs away, like tries to dodge the bullets, right?
He does. He like turns Sarah away from the bullets,
but
not quick enough.
Still catches her. So that's how he's able to survive, because he like falls down a hill or something, right? And like
they both tumble.
So he survives the guy. But then what happened to the guy? Because wouldn't he just go shoot? I guess someone else kills him or something.
Yeah, Tommy, his brother, Joel's brother, actually. No, you're okay. I need you to keep me on track, because I tend to get off track pretty frequently. But yeah, so Joel survives. Sarah's dying. The guy comes up to Joel, gets ready to kill him, but Tommy, his brother, shows up with a shotgun and kills him. So that's how they survive the situation. And from there, they just end up fleeing the situation. They're not even going to attempt to go to a safe base because it's not safe. And so knowingly that Sarah's dead, they move on. They try to kind of find like another community to intermingle with and be safe with. And there's a faction called the Fireflies, and they are kind of like the rebellion against the government type group. And they end up getting in cahoots with them.
So what is the government trying to do?
They're not really doing anything per se. They're the Fireflies is kind of the group that's trying to find a cure. I think by this time the 10 years have passed, because they fast forward. But the government wasn't doing anything really to help. They were just setting up refugee camps and just not doing a great job. So, and honestly, I think everything that I've read of the gameplay, they don't mention the government after that. It's really just the Firefly focus.
They probably just...
They kind of just are like,
the whole government probably just like disintegrated because everyone was dead.
Yeah, freaking 60%
Fall of Rome.
People are Fall of Rome. And there's a lot of inner turmoil in the Fireflies, and there's like a lot of treachery. Is that the right word?
Yeah, someone's treasonous.
Yeah, treasonous. I like that word. Treasonous. So they go about their wits of just trying to, like,
you just can't trust anybody.
Right. It's a rebellious cycle. And they end up meeting Ellie, who's a young girl that was taken care of by one of the Firefly members. Her mom had passed away during the midst. Ellie is roughly about 14, 15. Ellie is supposedly known to not be affected by any of the infection. So she could get bit by I almost said a walker. Wow, not Walking Dead. Okay.
But, a White Walker.
But a White Walker, yeah. And she's not affected. She was bit and nothing happened to her. However, her friend that she was with, it was almost a romantic relationship, but the other one did not want a part of that. So the two of them were messing around in a little circus area, and they both end up getting bit by one of the zombies and the infected. And she had to watch her friend turn, which I couldn't even imagine having to watch my friend die while I'm okay, for the most part,
Right, but also expecting to be turning at the same time. Like, you're like, okay, where are my symptoms? And like, they never come. You just watch your friend die. So
yep, and no one's there to help you. Like, they basically, she dwindled away with nobody else around. Once Ellie meets Joel, they kind of go on this whole adventure of just trying to get Ellie to the Firefly camp that's kind of across country, to get her kind of assessed and blood work and all kinds of procedures just to, do research on the possible cure.
Got to get those antibodies.
Joel finds out and realizes that when you get infected, it affects the brain. So his realization halfway to getting to the Firefly camp is that if they did any research or had to surgically check Ellie, they would kill her, basically, to get the cure. But she's not going to let him stop him. Or she's not going to let him stop her from going to try to get the cure and to sacrifice herself.
But he doesn't want to watch his teenage daughter die again.
Right.
Because everything's about him.
So there's that whole everything. Joel is not a good guy.
He's honestly selfish, actually.
Very selfish. And, he is the hero of the game, quote unquote.
The antagonist, the protagonist.
The protagonist, yeah. So he's a lovable character, but he really does like a lot of the bad shit around the game and without any repercussion,
Yeah.
And fast forwarding, Ellie gets to the Firefly camp and goes in for her procedure. Joel did not agree with it, but he let her do her thing. But he came back. He was like, no. I'm not doing this again. I can't lose her. So while she's anesthetized on the operation table with the doctor and nurses all in the room, Joel goes in there, murders the doctor, murders all of the nurses. And I mean, in game, this is what you do. You murder the nurses.
You actually have to kill the doctors and the nurses.
It's not a cutscene. You have to kill them. And so he ends up taking Ellie.
I wouldn't like that.
I know.
They're essential workers.
They were doing good for the humanity, the greater good of humanity.
I support healthcare workers.
I mean, again, that plays like if you looked at it logically and you were killing nurses, not that killing is a good thing, but that's the whole point that you're making. Like,
he probably killed someone's high school bully. I'm just kidding.
It's likely 40% of the surviving race. You never know.
I don't hate nurses. I love nurses.
I love nurses too. It's all fun and games. Fun
games where you kill the people who are trying to save the world because you want to save this teenage girl.
I know.
Who's not actually your daughter.
Right. And she's a smart human. She really, she wanted the cure. She wanted to be able to give that to people.
What it would take. I'm pretty sure she knew. I'm pretty sure she wanted to die. She's been waiting to die since her friend.
Yeah.
She says that to him. She's like, I've been waiting for my turn. And he's like,
to do something.
Right.
And the hardest part for me when it came to the point of meeting the doctor, because you don't really know what a sequel is going to be until after the first one comes out. And so the way the doctor was presented in the first one was so nonchalant, and it was so like it's hard to explain. He was just another person. There was no like feeling, emotion.
No.
There was a little bit.
He's just like
but
a character there.
Yeah, like a blank computer face, like nothing. So when the second one rolled around of the game and they're talking about the doctor, they gave him this whole backstory. And so it was a gripe I had about it. But he saves Ellie, takes her away. She's still anesthetized when she's in the truck and they're driving to Colorado. And she wakes up halfway through the drive and is just like, did we do it? And he's like, nope, we didn't need to because the Firefly found other cures and they didn't need you. You're fine. Don't worry about it.
She was just like, are you fucking kidding me? She didn't buy it at all, right? I have a feeling that she didn't.
I don't feel like she did, but she was also anesthetized, and then it comes up later. So there's another part to it too. But she was anesthetized, so when she woke up, she was just like, did we do it? Like, come on, Dad, did we do the thing. And then he told her, and she just rolled back over and was like, all right, well, my work here is done almost, you know?
You know what's interesting, actually, because earlier in the game, there's a part where he tries to have Tommy take her to the Fireflies because he doesn't trust himself. And honestly, truth, because he couldn't get the job done. He should have had his brother do it.
Right. And I don't know if Tommy would have been able to do it because of Tommy's like disposition in the second game. I don't know. It would have been interesting. It would have been interesting to see.
But Tommy just wouldn't have been as close to her. And Tommy doesn't have the trauma of losing a daughter. So he would be like, oh, yes, I understand that it's for the good of all of mankind. It's going to help the world. Make it so that not everyone has to live like this anymore.
Right. So you didn't have to worry and be in fear.
But Joel's all, no, I'm going to take her and we'll just live in fear for the rest of our lives.
Right. And
the rest of our short lives.
The rest of our short lives. Yeah. It's crazy when you think about it, but I think in Joel's mind, he was just like, we'll go to a safe camp. We'll go somewhere. We'll have a hideout. We'll protect that hideout and we'll live the rest of our lives that way. It's just, you're always going to be in fear. You never know. You never know. And so when the second game starts, now I'm not going to go into each individual section of the game because there's so many flip-flops of timelines and all of that good jazz. But the basic storyline of it is Ellie and Joel are at this community that they built in Colorado that was just comfy, calm, cool, collected for the most part. There's like a bar and people are dancing and having like a typical life after everything that had happened. I think like maybe 2 or 3 years had already passed since the hospital incident. So they were mostly comfortable. Ellie was trying to find a like, she had a group of friends, and her best girlfriend was with a guy named Jesse, and they ended up breaking up. And so this is in the beginning of the game, and they're all kind of having drinks at this bar in the community, dancing around, just enjoying their time. And God, I forget her name. Do you remember the girl?
Was it D? It starts with a D.
Dina.
Yeah.
It was Dina. Dina ends up revenge dancing with Ellie and then kisses Ellie. And so Ellie's like, okay, I want to be with you. You're my person. I'm in love. I need you.
I'm in love, and I don't care who knows it.
I'm in love. And it was sweet. It was like a sweet like moment because there was genuine passion,
Yeah. It was hot.
But it was hot.
No.
Dina was all riled up. I'm not even telling you. Ellie's kind of hung up on that idea. Her and Joel and Tommy had heard of like some outsiders that they were just trying to take care of on the outskirts of the community. Basically, from there, it's Ellie trying to get confirmation of what happened from the surgery site. She's like, I need you to tell me honestly, did it happen the way you say it happened? And Joel basically, it was like, yeah, like everything was hunky-dory. Like I took you and there's a cure, you're good.
If you're going to lie forever. Never tell the truth. That is the truth now.
Exactly. And so Ellie still didn't believe him. There was like that shred of like, I don't know. And I kind of take it up to being like, nobody's really talking about it.
Right. Like, obviously his story isn't making sense to her because it's not adding up. If he's saying that they have all these cures, where is it? And she's like,
yep.
You had to have, like, you didn't tell me the full story.
Right. And he begged Tommy to not say anything to her. He begged him. Like, please don't. Like, go to the grave with us type situation. So it was, it put a lot of strain on Ellie and Joel's relationship. And I forgot why they were trying to go to Seattle, because they were trying to make their trek to it.
They just heard it was really nice up there.
They're like, Colorado? No.
They're like, we love Starbucks.
It was an insanely good change of pace too. Like the scenery, it was nice.
In Seattle?
Yeah, it was really pretty. The game was stunning.
So which part of the game is there?
It's more towards the middle. Like I said, I'm just trying to go in like chronological order because it flip-flops. Like it goes into the past and it's in Abby's
right.
like
and you like play because you're like playing multiple people from the same point at different storylines, right?
Right. Exactly. So. And so it does switch to Abby.
Which is interesting to like incorporate that type into the sequel.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because the first game wasn't like that at all. And it's kind of like...
Exactly.
It's kind of like Twilight Breaking Dawn, when suddenly you're reading as a teenage wolf boy who is in love with a child. And you're like, I don't like this brain. I don't want to be in it.
Right? And you're like, whoa, what is this? And I mean... Not to mention, see, there's...
But in The Last of Us, I think it's a better, like, they do a better job of it. Obviously.
Right. Right. The choices that were made in the storyline of this game are what make me, just the storyline, that's what makes me, on edge, because I just couldn't sympathize for Abby in her regard, in her storyline. So when she starts up, you're like, who is this person? Like, okay, like, you're a hard ass. You have a thing for this guy because this is how it starts. Her storyline is just her and a guy named Owen. And she's basically like, she's kind of like pissed that he's hanging out and like dating this other chick in the colony. And she's like, okay, like, cool, I guess. Like, you can like her or whatever, but like, I still have feelings for you. And Owen's like, get over it, But that's it. And I'm like, that's not a way to introduce her.
You know who she reminds me of? Like, her character kind of reminds me of, I had to look up the name, but she kind of reminds me of, like, the same character type of Kuvira from The Legend of Korra, the final book 4. Don't.
Forgive me, because I haven't seen Legend of Korra. I need to.
She just kind of has that, like, female, like, very, like, dominant power.
Yeah. Like, she doesn't take shit from anybody, but she's like a lawful good, in a way, like a lawful good.
Lawful
I don't
neutral.
want to say good because lawful neutral. Yeah, let's go with that one, because she does kill people. So
yeah,
there's that. That whole introduction, you're just like, what the fuck, dude? And then again, it switches, and then it goes back to Ellie, and you play Ellie for a little bit. But basically, Joel had gone missing, right? And so Ellie and Dina went out to go find him. And it's in the midst of a snowstorm. And you kind of play, like, once you get into the snowstorm and Ellie and Dina are kind of like in their trek to go track Joel down where he went. You switch to Abby, and Abby's going through all this snowstorm bullshit, and ends up with Owen finding Joel. She doesn't know it's Joel at the time. She just thinks it's some random person. And they end up taking him back to their camp, back in this little cabin. It's a beautiful cabin. And they kind of set up base there. But Joel was lost and was trying to help Abby, because they kind of got into a fit with a bunch of the infected people. So they're like, yeah, I got your back. Like we'll take care of these guys. Come back to our camp. We'll set you up and send you on your way. And as Joel is in the cabin, Abby gets word that it's Joel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at this point, you don't know what Abby's relationship is to Joel yet, still.
Or you still don't know her motivation or anything.
Nope. Nothing. Not a piece.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, Joel and Tommy were both found. I forgot to mention that Tommy was still with Joel at the time when they got lost. But Abby and Owen had found them. They went to their camp. And Abby then finds out that it's Joel and that's who she was looking for, out for revenge. Not necessarily why the camp was there for the most part, because they were actually stalking the community that Joel was in.
Mm.
But she just happened to get lucky because she knew that there was word that he was around, but not that he was in the community, and just ends up going a little ape shit. She asked like everybody to leave the fucking room and just she wants to give him a spiel, just basically saying like, you killed my father, now prepare to die. And Joel calls her out. He's like, I know you got shit to say, go for it. She does shoot him in the knee with a shotgun, so it incapacitates him. And then she's got two henchmen holding on to him, like just on his knees.
Mm-hmm.
So she takes a golf club and goes to town on him, just for God knows how long. And all the while, Ellie had left Dina at an outpost for the time being, and goes and finds and tracks to find out where Joel is. And she finds a cabin where she thinks he is. And she hears grunting and like noises coming from the basement. So she ends up going down there, bursting through the door and trying to shoot Abby. But the people that had left the room for her to do her thing to Joel, for Abby to do what she did to Joel, she just gets captured and is just forced to watch Joel die. And it's like Joel again is not a good guy. He's not the
right, like,
the end all be all character, but it was sad. It was horrifying to watch Ellie lose like the only person that she had ties to, that she could trust, and
that she like felt like family.
Yeah. So that was revenge strike one for Ellie. And then after that part happens, Tommy gets knocked out. Dina then tries to find Ellie and does the same thing. So they end up fleeing the scene of the attack, and so did Abby and Owen, and her whole group left as well. But fast forwarding, it starts to get, to me, in a way, it just starts to add so much to a story. Just to, without going into detail, it just turns into this like melting pot of storyline, and it's basically a revenge circle. Abby kills this person, Ellie kills this person, and it's just a vicious cycle. And there were a lot of just lack for a better term, just a lot of political views that were in the game, which, mind you, everybody deserves to have a position in a game. So there was Dina, which I don't actually know if they say what ethnicity she was. There was the LGBTQ plus involved in the game. Abby, who's not the typically slim, like princess rescue me prince type character. And so there were a lot of like new storylines that were introduced to the game that were deserving of being there.
Right. But like some people didn't like.
Yeah. A lot of people didn't like it, which I don't understand, because it's not hurting you. It's not bothering you. Why does it matter?
It just makes you uncomfortable because of your own reasons.
Because you're immature.
But it has nothing to do with the people who are just trying to live their own lives.
No, not at all. Not at all. And would I say that it had anything to do with the storyline of Last of Us? Not exactly. I like those bits and pieces of the story. don't need to be there. They were just embellishments, in my opinion.
It kind of felt just like a different storyline that was
separate. Exactly.
It didn't even really feel like it had that much to do with like anyone getting infected. Like it wasn't even really a zombie game anymore. It was just like a revenge game of these two like cat and mouse kind of. It wasn't even about like the world that you were in anymore.
No, I mean, not every game you play, you have to like the main character. You don't have to. Mm-hmm. However,
I hate Mario.
However, same.
Mario is honestly like a dork.
That's a good way to put it. Like, but you also don't have to necessarily like Mario to like the game.
But either. You play Super Mario Brothers and you beat every level.
And you play to save Princess Peach every freaking time, but you hate Peach too. So it's like...
Exactly. No one likes Peach. You play so that you can see Bowser.
Exactly. I play really just to relive my childhood, but that aspect is so... It's important. It's key to keep in mind when you're playing this game because nothing goes the way you want it to. And you're playing Abby, I want to say at least 70% of the time. And most people like Ellie more. Mm-hmm. Nobody likes Abby because she killed Joel. And you end up finding out why Abby killed Joel like halfway through the game. Because you start to play her storyline and then you start to realize, oh, her dad was the doctor that he killed.
I don't even remember. That was just literally a guy in a room that I killed.
He was like, no, please. Like those were his one-liners that got him a sequel. Like, come on.
A major plot point in the sequel.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then it's just Ellie's going on this revenge thing. And then once it's over... I mean, are we spoilers or whatever? But because it kind of just ends with nothing, with her just being like, oh, it's not worth it. And then she goes home and realizes, well, she already lost everything. So she lost everything and realized that it wasn't worth it. Didn't even get the revenge. And it's like,
yep. Yeah.
But are there still zombies? We don't know.
The cure still is not out there.
The cure is still not out there because...
What I find hard to believe now is that Abby's dad was the only doctor capable of finding the cure. I highly doubt that.
Now, the question is, how many doctors were still even around, though? Because how many doctors got infected and were dead? So maybe, like, Joel might have killed out the last of, like, the medical field.
Nurses are essential workers. Oh my God. Yeah. When you think about it like that way, and like Ellie was building her life with her girlfriend because her and Dina ended up getting together.
Right. And Dina had a kid. So they like were a family.
Yeah. And Ellie chose to leave that behind to go kill Abby, who didn't even get killed in the last.
And Dina was like, if you leave, don't expect me to be here when you get back. And she's all, I choose revenge over you. I choose revenge over love.
Right.
And then she's like, no, wait, I don't. I choose love. And then like, nope, sorry.
Oh, and then she goes back to the house and you're just like, what did you do? What'd you do? It's so not worth it. And like, I mean, needless to say, the story is not your typical, written game. It's not your typical written novel or anything like that. It's just non-conventional, and people didn't like that, They wanted a happy ending, or they wanted her to kill Abby.
I think like if something's different than what you're expecting, people are going to have a lot to say without even like, before even like letting it like getting a good taste of it. Like,
right.
So who is like the most minor character in the second game that you think the third game is going to be about? Who's the third plotline going to center around that was like the most minor character in the second game that has nothing to do with any of the plot lines so far.
Oh my god. Watch it be Dina's son. Like, it just be the baby boy.
It's his son, right? Her son. And he's growing up, to get revenge against...
against Ellie?
Against Ellie for leaving, for abandoning them. He's like...
Yeah, because...
he has daddy issues.
Watch, though. She's like, Dina somehow ends up dying from the infected, and she's like, Ellie, you could have saved my mother, and like...
Yeah.
I don't know. I wanted to talk about it because I recently had come to a better understanding of the game instead of feeling like they just shit all over the place and called it a video game, like a sequel to one of the best like story-driven video games that had come out in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion.
Do you feel like they were trying to be, because like the first one got so much like praise for having a good storyline, that the second one they were just like feeling the pressure? They were like, we have to make a really good storyline.
They had postponed releasing that game quite a few times. When they did release it, people assumed it wasn't ready. Like it shouldn't have been released as soon as it did. But not to mention, again, just to reiterate, every person deserves to be represented in any facet of life. So whether that be in a video game, a book, a TV show, whatever. Now, Laura Bailey, the voice actor for Abby, literally had the worst time after the video game was released. And it just goes to show that the people that didn't like the game were petty enough to go after a voice actor. Like, for what?
For reading a script.
And it was just, like the whole game just...
And first of all, why y'all love Joel so much? He's like not that good again.
I know. I completely agree. And he, now mind you, you sympathize with him. Of course you sympathize with him because they portrayed him as this broken man who ended up finding a purpose again. When you're playing the game, a lot of people don't realize that when you're playing the character and you're actively killing these people or whatever the case may be, they don't really take that into consideration as being a bad act. Like, you're protecting yours and your own. So a lot of people don't see it as a mal-intended kill. It's like, I'm protecting myself. These people are bad. I'm protecting. And so I feel like a lot of people just don't take that into consideration either.
Right.
Let alone whatever storyline presented with Joel happened, But that's basically it. It just, I've been dying to get that game off of my chest because I've done a lot of like soul searching with it. Because I hated it. I absolutely loathed it. And now I've kind of turned a new leaf with it because I'm like, it's not a bad game. It's not. It's just not a storyline
that you expected to come after.
Yeah, exactly.
First one,
exactly.
Really.
But that was the gist of it. What do you think of the game overall? Would you find that storyline like pleasing to read or like play through?
Well, like the first game being like kind of a typical-ish zombie escape thing. I'm just kind of like, they do a good job of that. And then with all of the flipping characters and stuff in the second game, I don't know. I feel like that would be more interesting because for me, gameplay is about putting your brain in a situation that it has to solve the problem, right? Solve the puzzle to get out of. So I think that when you're switching characters, you're forcing your brain to like, then now you have to solve it from a different perspective. You have
critically think, yeah.
Right. It just puts your brain in a different perspective to have to solve things. And so I think that as far as gameplay, that's interesting.
Right.
That's more fun to play because it's more challenging. It's actually what a game is for.
I hear that.
Because when you're kind of confused as to what's going on in the room, you're like, okay, I have to pay attention.
Right. Yeah. And it makes it interesting because different perspectives and choices and cutscenes and relationships with other characters. It's all, I guess it's all very enigmatic, and I like that in a lot of aspects of life. So I did find that part a little bit interesting and also hard to follow, but it made it pretty fun for the most part.
So would you say it was a good click?
I give it a 5 out of 10 click.
5 clicks.
5 clicks. 5 clicks out of 10. Yeah.
It's a medium game.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I'm ready for the flick of the evening.
Our flick this week was Netflix original movie.
Yes.
Starring Eric Andre, Bad Trip. And I had never seen it before. We just both watched it for the first time, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I, for one, I'm not like a big prank show person because it's depending on the prank. And I feel like it's hard to get ones that aren't mean, and I don't like the mean ones.
I get that.
So what I liked about this movie is it opens up with a prank that's not mean. He's at the car wash, and he just has like, although I do kind of feel like some of the pranks were like, if I did that at work, it would be sexual harassment, but they can do it at work and it's fine. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because he's like at the car wash and he asks the guy to turn on the vacuum and it sucks off all his clothes. And he's completely naked, and this dude's not wearing underwear under his stripper jumpsuit.
A stripper jumpsuit, yeah.
So it really just made the guy uncomfortable. It wasn't like mean to him. But so I don't know. What do you think about like prank shows?
I hate them. Because here's my issue. When I kind of saw, because I didn't really know the premise of the movie, when I saw the beginning like clip, the beginning prank, I was like, this is scripted. I don't do that. I don't do scripted pranks by any means, because the reactions aren't genuine. The people are in on it, and it takes me out entirely. I'm like, no, that's not enjoyable anymore. But Andre, the main character, I forget what is his actual name in the movie. I forget.
Chris. One of them was Chris and one of them was Kurt, but I never really I don't remember who.
But I love his humor. Like it kept me watching. But I did look up halfway through the movie. I did look up halfway because I was like, no, I can't do this if the reactions are not genuine. And I looked it up and they were, and I was like, okay.
Yeah. The people that they're talking to are like real. Some of them were really funny. Some of them I didn't like. So like the one that I thought was super funny was when the sister is escaping from prison and there's that guy and he's just like, you better run.
You better get the fuck out of here.
He's like, go. And then the cop comes like, someone escaped. And he's all, you said someone escaped. He's all acting all shocked.
And then
how would I help them?
How would I help them? Give them my vest?
And she comes back and she's like, thank you so much. You're an accomplice to my shit.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
That had to be my favorite prank.
I want to be like, if I was ever on a prank show, I want to be like, kind of like that, or kind of like, there was like Seth Green when he was on Punk'd, how like the cops came, because he was in like some kind of like gambling thing, and the cops came in and he was all, I don't know, but I'm like, no snitch, you know what I mean? Like if I, like that's who you respect, right?
Right. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Dying.
Like, that's a real one.
That was
know
great.
What I mean?
Yeah.
I want to be that. If I'm ever on a prank show, I want it to be like, yeah, no.
Right.
I'm not giving anything
antagonize up. Like a reaction out of you type thing to warrant to like I fell in love with it. That had me dying when I watched it.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, and they had a musical number. I forgot about that.
That was hilarious. There's also one at the end too.
There is a plot for this movie. So it's just like very simple. It's a prank show movie, but they are like a couple of friends, like deadbeat jobs, and the main character, Chris, meets this girl from high school, runs into her, and she's like, oh, you should come like check out my studio if you're ever in New York or something. And then he's like, oh my God, I have to go to New York. So then it becomes just like a road trip to get pussy. And
yeah. And he's like determined.
And so he convinces his friend to basically get his friend whose sister is in prison. He wants him to get his sister's car, and they steal her car, and then they're driving up to New York, but then she is like breaks out of prison and is angry, and it follows them. So it's like a chase / race.
Yeah.
To one true love.
Right.
So there's a scene where they're in the mall, and he starts singing about how he met his love, and he's like going to go to New York or whatever. And all of these other workers start dancing, and just everyone in the mall is staring at them. And they're also just like knocking over stuff, like chairs and shit in the mall. Like things are falling, and they're just like singing and dancing.
Absolutely destructive.
It's like how it would be in real life if someone just broke up into musical theater, which exactly is what they did.
It was great because Keith was watching during that scene, and after the scene was done, he left and walked down the hallway and started singing this song. And I was like, "Oh, it's so catchy!" I was obsessed.
I was gonna say, like, it wasn't even that bad a song if I can remember it. Like, it wasn't like I didn't have anything bad to say about the actual way the song was written. So.
Right.
And then they're talking. The next scene is them talking on a bus, and so it's literally just them talking to each other. It's not them pulling pranks on anybody, but they're having the loudest conversation, and so everyone at the bus is like hearing them, and they're like reacting to what they're saying because they're obviously being like loud and like. At one point, he's like so he's convincing him. He's like, "Come on, we got to do this. We got to go to New York. I love her." Blah blah blah. And so that's what people are like, what? like listening and hearing. And then there's one part where he gets up, and I don't remember what he asks. He asks, like, has anyone here ever been to New York? And one girl on the bus is just like, yes.
Yes. But she wasn't even looking at him. She's
not
goes,
looking.
Yes.
She just goes, yes. Like with all the enthusiasm, but doesn't move her body, doesn't change her face, just her voice. Yes. I thought that was hilarious.
Oh, that was a good scene, yeah.
Yeah, and then the next scene was when she's escaping and he goes, "You better run." That was my favorite.
Yes.
There's a scene, I wrote down wedding dress because there was a scene, I don't remember how. Someone gets married. Oh, wait, yes. There's like a dream. He's like dreaming of marrying her, right?
Yes.
And she, number one, that is a very gorgeous wedding dress.
Yes,
when I marry myself, I might wear that.
Can I be your officiant, please?
Yeah. You may now kiss the bride, and you may now kiss me. It's probably the best line in any movie is when the priest says, "And you may now kiss me." Yes, I am here for this line.
The reactions that everybody was giving was so, I don't want to say cliche, but it was expected.
So, like, yeah, I guess the audience members of the wedding were, like, real people who thought they were just at someone's wedding. But I wonder why you would randomly think that you're invited to someone's wedding. I wonder what they told them.
Right. Yeah, that was my exact thought. Like, did they say, "Hey, can you just be a part of this wedding? We need witnesses," or whatever the case may be. I don't know. Because whoever was recording, there was like a quick shot of a guy with a camera who was like either taking pictures or recording. And when he started kissing the priest, and then she joined in, and the guy was like,
he just like raised his eyebrows. He just like had a little smirk.
Like, I was like, yes, you accept this and you love it and I love it. And I agree with you.
So if I could like recommend this movie for any reason, it would just be like, honestly, You May Now Kiss Me. That line, Oscar, Academy Award for writing.
Immediately. Honestly. No other contenders.
But then it was the gorilla scene. And maybe I'm going to be on the wrong side of history about this, but I did not laugh. I did not laugh.
I did not laugh. And it was, what's hard for me is I need pranks to be convincing, which is why I said I can't stand it when it's staged.
So here's the thing is that I guess you would have to be, because for me and my perspective, I'm like, obviously I'm watching a prank movie, so I know these are all pranks. And so that looks like a man in a gorilla suit.
Right. Exactly.
If I was actually there and it was, you know what I mean? And in the rush of the moment and with the adrenaline, would it look like a monkey? I still think it wouldn't. I still don't believe it. I still don't think I would buy it.
I agree. And like, I don't think a monkey would do that. I'm sorry.
I don't think a monkey would. Or
a gorilla would do that.
Would do that. No.
Mm-mm.
I don't think he would, because like we all remember what happened with Harambe.
Rest in peace.
So, right. Obviously, I just didn't like that scene. And the other thing is that I am 100% supportive of vulgarity. And I love dirty jokes. I love all of that. But it needs to be funny. It needs to have like witty. There has to be some kind of element of surprise or some kind of like double smart. I don't know.
I was definitely surprised. I did not expect the gorilla to do that at all.
It was just like immature humor.
Right. It didn't have any like, lack for a better term, just meat to the bones. It was like, oh, this is so off the wall. It's not take you off the guard funny. It's just like, what the fuck happened just now?
Right,
even the people that were witnessing it, like, people were screaming at first. And then, like, once that started happening, all of their faces kind of switched. Like, they were all, like mildly what? Still, like, under scrutiny. They were just kind of like,
yeah.
Seriously? Like, what? Huh? And then he goes back in, and I was like, no, don't go in for a second time. That's not funny either. But again, perspective and opinions and perceptions are.
Some people might have really loved that and thought it was so funny. I didn't.
I agree. I was on the same page with you. Yeah.
The next thing I wrote down was that their drug trip was also like nothing I would ever do on drugs. Never. I don't know what they were supposed to have been on, but...
Okay, because I didn't get that context either. I didn't know what they were on.
Because apparently they were like mint. So, do you want a mint? I want a mint. So, what I was assuming was that they took LSD. And that's just not what LSD... I don't know. Like, I guess I've never done it in public. But the whole grocery store scene and how they're acting and stuff, it just... Drugs in movies is not like drugs in real life. And it's so crazy to me to think that people, there's just like this idea of what drugs do to you that they don't. And it's just experiences are not like that. They're yes, it's trippy, but it's like, it's just, you're not like a crazy freak. It's
exaggerated.
Like you know what I mean? Unless you're a crazy, you just have to want to be a crazy freak. And then that's who you are. And you're making an excuse for being on drugs. That's my opinion.
It's a misconception for sure. And I've actually watched a guy on YouTube, forgive me, I don't remember his name, but he does drugs for science and to educate people on how to take it properly and safely. And
is it Dr. Carl Hart? Because I've been reading a book about him. He's a scientist also. Oh.
No, he's just a regular run-of-the-mill kind of guy that just will do a lot of drugs, all different types on camera, but also tells you like how to be safe about it and dose it and all that good jazz. But he griped about it, not the movie itself, but just how drugs are portrayed in movies, TV.
In movies, right. And that's for real. For real, every like movie or TV show or anything I've seen. Like there's that show on Netflix called Love where they do mushrooms in one scene, and then the guy's like running around and he's like, oh, I see a bear is trying to chase me or something. And I'm like, that's not like, you don't see things that aren't there. Like everything you're not like making up like creatures that are chasing you. Like that's not how that's, I don't know, maybe people have experienced that. I don't know, maybe I've never had an experience on mushrooms, LSD, anything that was like how it's ever been portrayed in the movies. It's just not like that.
It was such a quick transition into the scene that I was just kind of like, I almost didn't know what was happening, but I could tell because of the exaggerated effects.
Like people who were part of making that movie probably have experienced these drugs and like,
or something,
wrote
right?
these seeds in. But I'm just so confused as to why you would.
For the people that haven't done any type of drug, you know, there are some negative effects of portraying it that way, because then people are going to be like, don't do drugs, kids. But then
because they think it's a certain way, and then they take drugs and then they start acting that way or something because they think
they expect it, or, you know, that's their vision in their head about it. Yeah, you're not wrong. And it was such a quick scene. I was like, okay.
Yeah. But then basically the movie like wraps up. He makes it to the gallery and he's like, I love you. And she's like, what the fuck? No.
She was like, I barely know you. Like,
right. And then sister catches up and drives like a car through her gallery. And so she gets all pissed at him, and then they leave. And it ends up,
I think after they leave, they get into a fight. Or is that before?
This is like the last 10 minutes. In the last 10 minutes of the movie, they have the whole, like, they break up, like, redemption, they come back together, and then they end up, like, his friend saves him from his sister on the roof. So the sister's, like, holding him over the side of a roof.
And
everyone's freaking out. And I'm wondering, like, how they actually got him back up, because the way the shot is she's like actually holding him, and she's like laying down holding him. She's like laying down on the roof so that her body can like support his body, I'm guessing. And then he's like hanging off the building. She couldn't have from that position pulled him back up. And the way it's shot is that when it does show them finally, she's making a pulling motion, but he's already on the roof. So you can tell that they cut it. And it was like someone else had to have pulled him back up. But for people to believe that, how do you get that all? You know what I mean? For the people on the ground to actually believe that and be buying it, which is what I'm wondering. Like how much, I don't know. So that's what makes me wonder.
Like what steps were taken. Yeah, for that stunt and the car accident one.
Yes, the car accident one is actually, I wrote down how they got that, because they're obviously not in the car when it's flipping, but then they're crawling out of the car. So how did they get that set up for the audience to think, or whatever, the people there to like believe that it was? And
how did they keep people away from the explosion?
Right.
But yeah, anyway, continue. Sorry.
So that was it at the end. And then they make up and they end up, the brother saves him from the sister, and the sister's like, I just wanted to toughen you up. And now I love you, brother. And then everyone's happy, right? The end.
Yeah. And they go to a ball and they dress as white chicks, and
oh yeah,
it was funny. It was a good time.
Because they want to see if they talk about how white chicks wouldn't work in real life, and so they dress up,
right.
They do it, and they go and do it in real life. That part was funny, because I also agree with him that I felt like they did not look like they would pass off in real life in that movie.
Pass off, chicks. Yeah.
But they did it. They definitely looked weird, though. They looked weirder than the white chicks looked.
Yeah. When they did the sister in the white man costume.
Yeah. Oh, as a white dick.
Yeah. Yeah. That was hilarious.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah. I loved that.
One of the most wholesome parts of that movie, in my opinion, it was just so sweet, is when he goes up to the military recruiter. And he's just like, man, I'll suck your dick if you just kill me. The guy was like, oh my God, you just said you'd suck my dick and for me to kill you. And he was like, man, it's not that bad. Like you've got this. Like he was so encouraging to him, and he was like, you've got this, man, you've got to go tell her how you feel.
There are good people out there.
Yeah. And then he's hugging him, and he's like, okay, whatever, like I'll hug you, it's fine. And he's like, man, you gotta pick yourself up, like it's all good. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna go get her, I'm gonna go show her that I love her. And he's like, thank you, I appreciate you. And as he's walking away, the military guy just takes a hit of his vape, and he goes, what the fuck?
Yeah. I think that this flick, I think it was good.
I laughed, genuinely laughed.
Yeah, I definitely genuinely laughed. It's now, prank shows aren't really my thing.
Me either.
I did like Punk'd when it came out.
I did like Punk'd as well. And those were genuine reactions, because they were all actors except the person.
But I also feel like Punk'd was fun because it was like punching up. You were only making fun of celebrities.
Yeah.
So it was it's okay if rich people get punked.
Right. And for the most part, it was wholesome.
Like Borat was funny, but it was like also I'm just like, it's just like pranks. You know what I mean?
I never watched Borat.
Oh.
I know.
Well, I'm not going to say we should, because it's just another prank movie. It is better. Gotcha. It is better than Bad Trip, I think. It was just, I feel like Borat was more original.
Oh, okay. I get you.
As far as, because this one, the plot line's just kind of like, every movie has this plot line. So they just like took a decent, like a basic rom-com plot line and added pranks to it. And it was just funny. But they could have been more original with the plot line, which Borat was when it came out, which is why I think it was so popular.
Got it. Now, mind you, I have never seen a prank movie. Never. Didn't know Borat was a prank movie. I had no idea that this form
You never seen Bad Grandpa with Johnny Knoxville?
Okay, yes, I've seen Bad Grandpa, but that didn't really have a plot, did it?
He's transporting his grandson across the country, right? So they kind of have a plot.
No.
Are you saying no to me? Or are you saying
no?
No, that's not the plot.
No, Ami, that's not the plot. No, no, I don't think I've ever seen it. I've only seen the grandpa skits from Jackass.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Got it. Yeah.
So they did like a whole movie of that.
Interesting. I'll have to watch that one too.
But Sacha Baron Cohen has done Borat and the other one, Bruno, and then he did the Dictator or something like that, Dictatorship or something
like that. Yeah.
So his like kind of genre is like this kind of thing.
Oh,
but I also feel like it was happening. Was Borat the first one to do it, or I feel like there might have been other ones before that, but
the Borat's the first one that since it is a prank movie, that's the first one I've ever heard of as far as that goes per se.
Because I feel like that was like a gimmick of it was like, oh, he's doing this like to real people. They don't know. Because I don't remember if something had come out like that before.
Oh,
because then I think after Borat came out, I thought, oh, well, they'll never be able to make a movie like this again because everyone will be like, oh, am I on a prank movie?
Right.
But apparently apparently they're still making them. And I'll give it 4 flicks.
4 flicks?
Yeah, because I feel like it was funny, but it wasn't original.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'll also give it, I think I'm going to give it a 5 flick out of 10. 5 flicks. Because I had never seen, I didn't even know that was something, a genre of film that existed. So I was I was super appreciative that most of the pranks were very genuine reactions. So that made me happy.
In the ice cream shop too, and he's like getting everything with his hands, and she's just like, that's unacceptable.
Yes. I was like
not having it. No.
Fucking say something. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I also like the electric cowboy. That was a fun scene. But
I like how we decided to just give ratings of flicks and clicks, like on the spot.
Yeah. Well, you started randomly. It, and you know what?
No, you did.
I fully support.
You said you started it when you gave it 5 clicks.
Oh.
to The Last of Us too.
Gotcha. I have a better idea of how I'm going to line up everything next time. So I'm excited to do a second one.
Me too. Do you have any idea of
what game I would do?
Game.
Not in my head just yet, but I know I can find a good one. So I now that I kind of have a feel for kind of the layout of it, I'm ready.
I have to pick a movie too for next time. I'll text you before we meet so that we can talk about it.
Yes. I would love that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot more than I thought I did because I was, like I said, I don't keep things in a straight and narrow line when I'm explaining anything, but it's nice to like get my feelings out about certain things. So it's really fun to elaborate, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's good. I think it'll be good.
I agree.
Hey folks, thanks for listening and sticking around.
If you enjoyed what you heard, subscribe and follow for some more Click and Flick content.
If you'd like to hear us talk about your favorite movies and video games, you can send us your suggestions to clickandflickpodcast@gmail.com.
That's click, A-N-D, flick podcast@gmail.com.
We can't wait to hear from you guys.
Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.